Hey, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? A gracious good morning to you good people. This your girl KB. You know what I do and you know why I do it. It is Monday. It's November 3rd and it is 2:53 in the a.m. I want to share something with you that I've been thinking about for the past couple of days, and every so often, my head and my heart get together and decide they want to beat me up and tell me about my happy self. And this is one of those times. I need to say that. You ever feel like you're doing a disservice in your service? You're plugged in, but you're not receiving the full current. That's where I am. And, once again, I'm feeling convicted and conflicted about it. And whenever I get this way, I do something about it. And it may not be to everyone's liking. And personally, I don't care. It's to my calling, my purpose, and I have to be true to both of those things and to myself. You've heard me say repeatedly that I'm surgical with the truth. And as my sister told me this past weekend, or 2 weekends ago, that she admires my dedication and my perseverance. She said that, my personality type is confrontational. We were talking about the dynamics of the sibs, and she's like, you don't let anything ride. You're confrontational. And for me, that's an honor. She nailed my personality right on. And then she talked about how I enter into, as Kendrick Lamar would say, the squabble. She's like, I see sometimes that you're getting beat. But just like you're like a cartoon character, you keep getting up and you run right back into the squabble. And you've heard me say, oh, I know I may get beat up, but you're going to know you were in a fight. And I hope, it is my fervent prayer, that somebody else picks up the fight. Because I don't enter into the situations just to be fighting, although some people may believe that. I enter into situations because I'm not going to let you lie to me. I'm not going to let you lie to anybody else. And, I'm not going to let you play all in my face. Dishonor the truth and dishonor the people that you owe the truth to. That's who I am. That being said, I was working on a bunch of orders that I'm going to get out over this holiday weekend. I got behind. I got sick. I sprained my ankle. I spent time with my family, so I got behind on my orders. And that's not good for business. But people understand I'm a one-man operation, and then I do custom orders. So, I get a little wiggle room with the people who order from me. But I don't like being behind. I like being able to say, here you go. Even if it's just a gift, here you go. So I was working on a bunch of orders this weekend, a bunch of designs, getting them all cut out and printed and whatever. And I had my background noise on, which is the TV, y'all. And I stumbled across this documentary about one of the freedom riders. Some of you may know her by name. Itty bitty little white woman who's much older now, but her son was telling the story. That's how old she is. And he was basically saying this is probably her last major road trip because of her age. Now, I'm saying you underestimate your mama. But he was meeting a bunch of people who knew her in her activism work. Her name is Joan Trumpauer Mulholland. Like I said, a little itty bitty white woman. But she rocks with some powerful names, and she rocked in some powerful situations. And it was very interesting to hear, how her son embodied some of her passion. But her son was talking from a space of knowing that he enjoys white privilege. And he was talking from a space where he knew, he said sometimes he has to catch himself in his thinking. He knows who his mom is, he knows what his mom stood for, and continues to stand for. Right on. But he also knows, the other side that influences him and his movements and what he enjoys because of. And that in and of itself was powerful. I'm saying this to say, because, in listening to him and his perspective and knowing what his mom has gone through as a result of being surgical with the truth. He was also talking about how capitalism influences America's opinion on black people. And it always has. And I was like, wow, somebody gets it. And I'm saying all this to say that two quotes came to mind. Because I'm always asked, because people know where I stand. And people know not to play with me on certain aspects. I'm kind of like Amanda Seal when it comes to discussing things head on, face to face. Like I said, I'm not going to let you play in my face. I'm not going to let you say something from a point of privilege, and screw everybody else. Because that's basically what privilege does. I got mine. Now I'm going to run and store my personal nut for the winter and come back out fatter. Stay tuned for part 2.